Welcome, guys, to another episode of Flipping Miami. I am your host, Raul Bolufe. And on the other side of the camera here, I have a very, very special guest for the second time. Kent Clothier on the other side, man. And I'm sure if you guys are watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on iTunes, definitely check it out on YouTube. You'll see his face. If you ever clicked on anything that said real estate investing, you will see his face to the end of time.
True story.
But he'll change your life and he'll make it for the better. So I was actually introduced to Kent, I want to say 4 years ago when I was at I think it was a Sean Terry event, and Kent was there and I was introduced to their mastermind. I joined their mastermind for a couple of years, introduced to Kent, helped me a ton, introduced me to tons of people who are still my friends today. James, the Hawk, Justin Colby, which we were just at his wedding a couple months ago. Anyways, it needs very little introduction, but Kent, he's got his hands in a couple different pies as far as real estate investing. He's got a software, Smart, that helps you find cash buyers, homeowners, distressed lists, reports, anything you can think of. So, dude, without further ado, Kent, I appreciate you for coming on, bro. No pressure.
Happy to be here. Happy to help, man.
I love it. And actually, I was telling him right before, he inspired me to start recording a bunch of podcasts again. We were texting about something else, and I saw that he's like, dude, I've been doing like 30 episodes or something. I'm like, shit, let me get on my game, man. Let me get on my game. Dude, what inspired you to start doing all those podcasts? I know that Corona time, but what got you to start doing all that stuff?
Well, probably the single biggest thing is just that, when it hit the frenzy, let's just call it that, right? The freak out probably hit California before it hit just about anywhere else. Like California was the first place to lock down. Obviously, we're in California. So I got to jump on everybody, meaning that we shut down on Thursday, and by Monday, I clearly knew that I had to do something, because I knew that if this kind of started going across, that people would start freaking out. And I just knew that you can't shut down entire states. You can't shut down entire service sectors, hospitality industry, airline industry, hotels. You can't do that without it creating a ton of panic, which inevitably it absolutely did.
Yeah.
And so, I basically was like, listen, nobody else, I know what to do, or I'll put it to you this way. I've been through enough hardship in my life that I know what to do when hardship presents itself, right? And so I kind of was like, I got to be a voice of reason. Nobody else is talking. Nobody else is saying anything, right? And so it's like, all right, if everybody else is going to sit down and shut up, then I'm going to stand up and start screaming. And
love that.
Started working my Rolodex, and in about 48 hours, put together about 35, super powerful guests, people like Jesse Isler and Ed Milet and Billie Jean and Frank Kern and Roland Frey, bunch of big thinkers, right? First time I've really ever gone into my Rolodex and I cashed in favors, but within 48 hours, every single one of them, like, I'm doing this. But it's one of those things, kind of like you pointed out, that it's easy to write the check. It's a whole other thing to cash that bitch. And so starting on that next week, suddenly I had to find 3 hours every single day for one interview after another, and did that for 10 days. If you'd asked me whether or not I had 35 to 40 hours of free time to do something like that over a 2-week period, I told you you're crazy. But
impossible.
It's amazing what happens when you're under the gun. I was like, no, I'll figure it out. We'll get it done. And so it ended up being great. Ended up helping a lot of people. Continues to help a lot of people. People are still going to those videos and watching that stuff.
Sure.
And so,
where can we find them, by the way? I know you sent them to me, but where can, if someone's listening to this, where can they find some of the videos that you've done?
Yeah, just go to Facebook and go to my Facebook group, which is free, is Kent Clothier's Smart Investor Group. Just go there, and all the videos are right there under expert sessions. And I think there's now 40 of them logged in there. And they are all they're all rock solid. These are rock stars, right? I mean, a ton of value. And we talked about everything from health and wellness to fitness to the SBA loans that were coming out to real estate to buying businesses right now to marketing. I mean, we covered it all.
I love that. Yeah, you guys definitely have to check it out. I mean, Kent always hanging around with big players, big thinkers. You'll see as you listen to this interview, or if you listen to my my first interview with Kent. I don't know if you remember, but at the end of the interview, I asked Kent, what's like what do you think is like $100 million play? And he like, 100 million, I'm thinking more like 3 billion. So Kent's a huge thinker, which I love. So definitely watch the first episode or listen to the first episode and get on Kent's Facebook. I'm going to put the link in the description here. Dude, Kent, like all this chaos and stuff, and you know, you've been through it before. I remember your story, and if you haven't listened to Kent's story on my podcast again, on the first one, you know, Kent was doing tons and tons of revenue in grocery type business. So you've been through chaos, you've been through ups and downs. What is the main like mindset you feel people that are not in the best financial position should adopt in this time frame? You know, is it like, oh, push harder than ever? Is it get smarter? Is it, you know, like what are some things that you think about?
Kind of all the above. If you had to distill it down, I mean, it's really simple. Unfortunately, because people want it to be complicated because then they don't have to do anything. But unfortunately, it is actually very, very simple. And everybody in any crisis, but especially in this crisis, you get a choice. You can either play the role of the victim or you can play the role of the victor. It's one or the other. But there are no half measures. And the victor is somebody that is running into the fire, is trying to figure out how I'm going to improve myself, how I'm going to challenge myself, how I'm going to come out of this better, how I'm going to not take this laying down, right? Like I'm going to fight, and I'm going to fight with everything I've got to change my situation. And by the way, which doesn't mean you're going to win coming out of the gate. It doesn't mean you're just going to suddenly, right? When champions are built. Here's an analogy I've used several times, but I think it plays well here. Is that if you really think about it, right? I know you're kind of a fan of mixed martial arts and UFC. I mean, we all are at this point, right? Yeah. And so if I came to you today, dude, and said, brother, I've watched every YouTube video, I've listened to every podcast, and I've read every book on becoming an MMA fighter, and now I think I'm ready to go get in the ring. Let's do this shit, right? Put me on the card, championship card, I'm ready. You would look at me like I'm freaking crazy. And for one very specific reason, because I would be. Because I hadn't gotten in the ring and gotten my ass whipped and gotten choked out and gotten my arm broken and gotten my jaw dislocated and gotten kicked in the face and gotten knocked out. You have to go through those things in order to become a champion, right? So if somebody wanted to become a champion in MMA, they would go hire the coach. They would get in the ring and they would lose repeatedly. But it's not really losing, it's learning. And they would get beaten up. And then over the course of time with the coach in their ear, in the corner, okay, do this, you missed this. They watch the tape. That's what it looks like to become a champion, and basically in anything. And the exact same thing is true in business. If anybody would walk into wholesaling or real estate or whatever, and by the way, you and I both have heard these people do this before to us. That's the reason I bring it up, where I've watched all the YouTube videos, I've read a few books, and I think I'm ready to go. And you're like, are you insane? Right? This is the time where champions are made. That's the bottom line. This is where you get to prove what you're really made of. Anybody in the last 5 years could be a rock star in real estate. You just had to show up.
Yep.
Basically, you had to go get a property under contract. And in a lot of markets, you could easily flip that deal and make a few bucks. That's not leadership. That's not champions. That is just basically being in the right place at the right time. Champions are made. Victors are made. When the going gets tough, when you start getting hit in the face and you're kind of wondering what to do, which is completely natural, but you choose to keep fighting. That's what it looks like. And so to your question, because I've fought so many battles, right? I've been at this so much longer than most people in this industry, right?
Yep.
I got back in this industry, but I started and did my first deal in 2003, right?
Yeah.
And so I lost a big business that you mentioned in the grocery industry, $2 billion. That thing went away, and then turned around and built a big empire in the real estate space. Recession hit, had to fight my own challenges there. The challenge to me, the struggle, is the good stuff. And that's the reason why guys like me and many, many others crush it during times like these, because our perception is very, very different. We don't focus on the obstacles. We focus on the opportunity. We refuse to be a victim. We've become the victor. And I think it's that mental switch. It's that simple. It's a decision. I am not going to be the victim. I'm not going to focus on the obstacles. I am going to focus on the opportunities. I'm going to, because they're clearly there, right? We can talk about that here in a second, but they are clearly there. Some of the greatest companies and some of the most successful people in the world have all been born out of recessions, right? That's just a fact. Statistically, that's a fact.
Yeah.
So there are opportunities all around us. Now, if you are so blinded by playing woe is me and laying in the floor and wishing and hoping and praying that it all ends, you'll never see them.
Yeah.
So it's just a choice, and it's that simple.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's such a great answer for that question because, and it's kind of how you started it. Like, it's simple, right? And some people, I love what you said, like some people want to make it complicated so you don't got to do shit. And basically what he means by that is like, the more complicated that you say to yourself the situation is, the more you're going to sit on your ass and not do anything. Right. If you just have a simple decision, like Kent said, like, dude, just make a decision to work on yourself, read if you want, keep working on your business, find new opportunities, listen to big thinkers like Kent and in the Facebook group, listen to podcasts, but actually take action, get beat up in the ring. And let me tell you this, you're going to get beat up more right now than ever as you go out there. If you're thinking of starting a business, I would say fucking do it. But you're going to get beat up harder right now than ever. I mean, I don't know if you'd agree, but I feel like more people are going to say.
Well, here's what I will agree with. I think you need to be prepared to get beat up. That's what I will agree. Whether that proves out to be true or not, regardless, the reality of it is that you need to go into it eyes wide open, knowing that and understanding that when you get hit, that's the good stuff. And most people view that as the bad stuff, right? They think of it as failure. It is not failure. I mean, all it's doing is getting me one step closer to everything I've ever wanted. I want the hits. Bring them, because I'm learning every day, and that's how I've made it to where I've made it. Is because the hits don't scare me. And does it mean that I have to go into the world and basically be prepared to lose it all? Absolutely. But you know what? That's okay. I know I'll never be broke. I know how to make money. I know that I'll be fine, because I've proven it to myself. And again, I know that just comes with the wisdom that I've had of doing it over the years. And you can't give that to somebody, but you need to understand that everything I'm telling you, it doesn't make it any less true. Yeah. You can absolutely do it.
It's actually absolute truth. I mean, if you're listening to this, you have a phone. If you're listening to this, you've probably had a job before. So if you go out there and take a huge risk and you get hit, probably the worst case scenario is that you can get a job again and just figure it out again, so it's not that bad. I love the way you mentioned that. Dude, let me ask you this. So I know like in this times, it gives a lot of time to think, even though I'm sure people you're keeping busy and doing the podcast and working, you got the businesses and all. But what were some of like the more introspective things that you started thinking about as far as like, future and opportunity and like kind of like what's going on? I know, like, for instance, when this whole thing first started, I started thinking, okay, like, I love this real estate business, but what is the future after all this? What is, like, if this were to happen 7 years from now, which probably won't, but whatever, let's say this were to happen again, like, how can I prepare more? Like, what were some of the initial thoughts you had when this first started happening of like, what are some improvements that you can make in your businesses, or what improvements that you can kind of contribute with?
Well, first things first, right? So when this, I mean, and hopefully, especially like a guy like yourself, right? Like, kind of, this is probably the first blow, right, to a business that you've had to experience. But these are great lessons, right? Great lessons. And I would hope that you would record these lessons, write them down, use them in a journal, and come back to them and refer to them often, because that's the very first thing I did. Is I went back to my playbook. I pulled out a journal from 2008, 2009, 2010. What the hell was I doing? What was going on? And it immediately put me back in that moment and let me understand that I was watching my competitors go out of business, and I was clearly understanding why that was happening. And so it was an easy way for me to think, okay, well, this is not what I need to be doing, right? So a couple things. One, you need to, the biggest thing that everybody needs to do is you have to right size your business in real time. So when the first wave comes through, hopefully everybody's already done this, but if they haven't, the very first thing you do is you don't try to time it, and there is no nobility in going broke slowly, right? And so that's a huge thing, because what a lot of people try to do is they try to fight it out and hold on, and they don't fix their business quickly to prepare for what, a year of this stuff could look like. And so if you've got excess expenses, if you've got excess employees, if you got, you are basically bring your team together, get the salaries in line, get everybody to rally around it, but get your expenses in order, period. That's the very first thing you have to do. The second thing you have to do is you have to create as much liquidity as you possibly can. Okay. Do you have home equity lines? Do you have other accesses to funding? Or the lines that you can be pulling down on? Get the cash in the bank, right? Prepare for the storm, because if it doesn't happen, great. But if it does happen, you're in a great position, right? Cash is king. And then the second thing, or the third thing to do, is don't ever stop marketing, right? So the biggest thing I saw happen in 2008, 2011. So going back there for a minute, I had been extremely fortunate, right? I would love to tell you I had a crystal ball, but I didn't, right? I just happened to time it right and did the right thing. But I had been doing reverse wholesaling for a long time, and which is a simple process where we just basically go and align ourselves with all the cash buyers. We create amazing relationships with them. We clearly know what they want to buy, and then we just work a deal backwards, right? Hey, you want to pay $200? Let me go find, and you want it in this very specific neighborhood. Let me go find it, get it under contract at $150, and then I'll flip it to you.
Okay.
And by aligning ourselves with all of the cash buyers at that time, when the market collapsed, all the funding dried up. And so all of my competitors were selling to people who needed money. I was selling to people who didn't need money. So who do you think won, right? So while they went like this, I went like this. And what was ironically, I noticed that all of those people, because they didn't have those relationships, because they had no stability in their business, they did not have a predictable outcome, they didn't understand their numbers. So what was happening is they immediately yanked back hard on marketing, right? And so they were like, oh, let's just wait and see. Let's just pull back. Let's pull back as hard as we can. And you alluded to it earlier. Where I learned to market as aggressively as I market is through those times. The reason you see my face everywhere is because I learned the lesson, right? That there was this huge vacuum, this void, where all of my competitors marketing for deals and marketing every business I had, all of my competitors just went, they stopped.
Really?
And so I was like, well, that means that my dollar will go further. That means I can take advantage of, and mind you, back then it was really just Facebook. I can take advantage of Facebook. I can take advantage of Google. I can take advantage of television and radio and all these things, because all that media is going to be cheaper for me because there's no competition now. So my brand just took off, right? Because I had all my competitors just pulled back, and they lost. Every one of them went out of business. Literally every one of them went out of business because they starved their business of the only thing that it actually required in tough times. The only thing your business requires in tough times right now is for you to stay in it and you to keep marketing. Yep. If you turn off your marketing,
love that,
you're done. I mean, and it is not a matter of if you will go out of business. It is just a matter of when.
Yeah.
Because you are robbing it of the very thing it needs to survive, to have any kind of longevity. You think it's tough now. Try paying your bills 90 days from now, because you save $5,000 a month at marketing. And 90 days from now, when you have no leads, no buyers, no sellers, then try to pay your bills. See how much fun that is, right? Yep. And so it is the single biggest mistake I see people make in tough times. Is one of the very first things they do. I don't know why, but intuitively they yank their marketing down.
Yeah.
And it is the only thing that's feeding their business. So it's the craziest thing to me. But so that's it, right? I mean, right size your business. Make sure that you get liquid and cash, and don't stop marketing.
I love that. It's a great answer. I mean, you're probably, so to give it more like practical thing, kind of like, and I was talking to Kent beforehand, like things have been really slow for us, etc. But I know my partner Lewis, he asked me, he's like, do we stop marketing? I said, never. Actually, let's go hire another caller. Let's not ramp up 10x, but let's hire another caller. Let's take advantage, because we're getting callers cheaper. We're getting callers cheaper than ever. We've been negotiating with like different platforms that we're using to get better pricing. So we're actually spending the same amount of money and getting maybe like 2.5 more than we were before.
There you go.
And
I mean, think about that. The attention, right? Because there's no competition. Literally, that's the beauty of this. This is the reason I love this. You've heard me say this comment a million times, brother, that it is an ocean of mediocrity out there, right? That you can count on your competition's mediocrity. This is what I'm talking about. As sure as that sun was going to rise, I know I can count on my competition's mediocrity, which means that all I have to do is stay in the game, and I can count on them retracting, contracting, pulling back, and getting out of the game. And by virtue of them doing that, to your point, now all of a sudden I'm getting, a 2.5x on my spend in media or callers or whatever the case may be, because the same amount of attention, now there's no competition for it. The same amount of eyeballs, there's no competition. Now I get to get all of it. And you talk about a way to move really fast and take over and come out of this like a rock star. Stay in the game. Keep marketing. Don't take your foot off the gas.
Love that. That's such a powerful thing. If you're kind of like in a position right now and you're listening to this and it's like, I'm not sure what to do from now. Like I want to make money. I want to keep doing this, but no one's answering. Whatever business you're in, but mainly real estate investing, dude, just stay in. Whatever worked before, just do that again. I got back into making MLS offers myself. I'm jumping on the phones an hour and a half to 2 hours every day just to keep my leads say call me later, but I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get two.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, it's a survival. There's nobody gets a free pass here. I mean, I'm doing the same thing. You're watching me do freaking 35 interviews, right? I mean, that I'm buckling down, doing whatever it takes. Yeah. We all have to do that in our business. So I'm not arguing that you're not going to have to work harder than you've ever worked.
Yeah.
But it will pay a much bigger dividend because your competition won't do it. They'll just go away. And there's two things. I'll also share with you here real quick. Is one is that you're it is going, when you're in a period like this, you have to understand that when you're dealing like with direct sellers, for instance, that every single one of us have probably entertained our worst nightmares, right? You asked me earlier, kind of, what do you think? Well, we've all had those thoughts like, oh my God, geez, this is crazy, right? This is the world's lost its damn mind. What the hell? I mean, we've all done that, right? Your sellers are doing that too. So now you think about it. I'm motivated. I need to sell. The circumstances really haven't changed, right? I'm going through whatever, right? A divorce or bankruptcy or whatever. All that motivation is still there. But now you layered over this thing over the top of it that is so much information or misinformation that I'm just paralyzed. What am I supposed to do? And I think everybody, if you're in the real estate space, the easiest way to help somebody is to get them to move, by the way, get them to move off dead center, is that you have to understand that you have a responsibility in times like these. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Wear that hat. That look, I went through the 2008 crash, and I saw thousands of people that were in my world, but millions across the country that tried to time the market.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that they thought that they could get 200 today, but they wanted to see if it bounced back. So, because maybe they wanted to get 220. And as they're doing this, it's going like this. It's all going down. So by the time they actually got around to trying to figure out how to get something sold, what somebody was willing to pay for it was now down to 160, 150, 140, right? So they lose all of this liquidity. They lose all of this cash. And then a lot of them get into places to where, I can't make the payment anymore. And then they just lost the home. And then they made no money, right? Not only did they lose money, but then they had a foreclosure on their credit. And then so saying that they paid higher interest rates in everything they do. I mean, it's just a calamity. It's just a catastrophe when somebody tries to time the market. Yep. And so you're going to have people right now that want to try to time the market. They're paralyzed and like, well, yeah, I hear you. You want to pay me 150, but I think when things kind of calm down, I might be able to get it to 160. Well, you have a responsibility as a real estate investor to educate them and help them understand what could really happen, right? Because it has happened. Statistically, it probably will happen. I was reading in March So they haven't reported the April numbers yet, right? As we're recording this, but in March, new home starts were down 16%. Existing home sales were already down 22%, which means, and it's going to be much worse in April, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're working with a seller, if you're trying to get them to move, if you're trying to get deals done, then it is in your best interest to do two things. One, assume the role that it is my responsibility to try to save this person. That kind of line of thinking will help you versus I need to buy the house. Pressure, 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 right? Your take on this needs to be, look, I owe it to you. I need to be able to look my wife and my kids in the face tonight, right? I need to be able to say, I tried to help as many people as I possibly can. This is not about you, it's about me. Really simple, right? I get to talk to 100 people a day, and I need to make sure that all 100 of them, if there's an opportunity where I can help them, I need to sleep very well at night knowing I tried to do that. Yep. So here's what I'm going to tell you. If you try to time the market, in all likelihood, you're going to get hurt. Here's the stats that document exactly what I'm telling you. I'm going to send you the articles that will back this up. Here's a Forbes article. Here's a Housing Wire article. Here's a Yahoo. I'm going to tell you exactly. And that way, at least I know what I'm here to do for you is to provide certainty in uncertain times. I can tell you right now, I can certainly pay you $200,000 for your house. In 90 days, I can't tell you any of that. Nobody knows what's going to happen in 90 days, but I can tell you statistically and based off the information we have, it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. So you might want to take the money now. And that we've had a lot of success moving people across the line because everybody's looking for a voice of reason, for certainty, right? They want that. They want to be told. They don't want to be sold. They want to be like, oh shit, this makes sense. I get it. Yeah. Okay. You're right. You know what? I needed somebody to kick me in the ass. Thank you. Let's do this. That kind of approach right now in these times is going to be really, really critical for anybody that's out there in real estate.
Yeah. That's so good. I mean, and I love this interview. And that's why I love chatting with Kent, because like you could just hear it in the way that he talks about this. Like the level of thinking is so different. And I feel like everyone should be on the journey to think in a level of helping, think in a level of assisting others, and notice that it's not all buy this house. Dude, I have to help you. Like this helps me sleep at night. Like I cannot go home and like go to sleep next to my wife and kids unless I know that I did my best thing. And that's what, like, I think I heard Grant Cardone say this or something, that like salespeople and marketers are actually the ones who make the biggest difference in the nations. It's not that those are obviously very important. I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just saying salespeople and marketers have the ability to reach more and help people as well. And if you're listening to this and you're in this business, you fall in that category. So it is literally your responsibility to do what Kent has been saying right now, which is an awesome thing.
And by the way, if you switch the hat and put that on, it will make you feel a hell of a lot better about what's going on out in the world, right? Which means you will carry yourself different and speak it differently when you're talking to people. If you're always wearing the hat of, oh, pressure, I gotta buy, under these certain circumstances, that doesn't feel good for you and it doesn't feel good for them.
Yeah.
But if you get passionate about really helping people and educating people on truly what is a very real possibility, let's just, unfortunately, it is a very real possibility that we're going to see a significant decline, at least short term, but maybe long term in the housing market for a while, then, step up, do what you can to help somebody.
Yeah, I wanted to chat about that for a second. Actually, I haven't really talked about it much with anyone on the show, but I know you'd be good with that because I know Smart and some of your softwares, they do reports and they do analytics and stuff. So Kent's always like pretty much like top of the line of who has like the data and all that. What is the data showing right now as far as like trends? I know you mentioned March, home sales down over 20%. Is it similar to the crash in 08, 09, or is it like, are home sales going to go down gradually? Do you think that, based on statistics, what are you seeing as far as percentages, stats?
Well, I think that you're going to see a significant drop off in both new home starts, which are key indicators, right? These are lagging indicators in the industry, but basically new home starts, and then also on existing home sales. Those are going to go down dramatically for the month of April. We'll have those numbers here shortly. In May, you're probably going to see the same thing all the way through, at a minimum, through September for sure. Traditionally, summer's kind of a slower time, a little bit, and then now you compound it with all of this going on, and the economic forces that are happening here are clearly you've got unemployment that's going to play a huge role in this, right? People are going to want to get out from underneath their properties. You also have a huge segment of the population now. Last time I checked, I think it was 770,000 properties were sold in the last 3 years to people that are using them as short-term rentals, basically Airbnb.
Wow. They're taking the biggest hit of all, I think.
And they're getting fucking crushed right now, right? And so you've got to think that a lot of those people are not in a position, that's very similar to 2008. So they're not in a position to where they can sit there and stomach 3, 4, 5, 6 months of no income on a property.
They overpay too, from my knowledge. They pay more than long-term renters would pay.
Yeah, they pay retail because they're getting retail on a short-term rental, right? What would normally probably rent, out here in San Diego, if you rented, you could rent a nice, beautiful property, something you'd love to be in for $7,000 a month, right? Long term. Well, that same property may get you $17,000 in a short-term rental, right?
Wow.
A lot more hassle, but also a lot more opportunity. And so, yes, to your point, a lot of people overpay, and which that drives the prices. So now all of a sudden you think about that, right? So you have all of those types of properties, and they're not all going to fall in this category, but a lot of them will, where they will, a lot of people are going to want to dump those properties very, very quickly. So that's coming, right? So you got unemployment, you have normal distress that's in the market, right? Yep. That happens every single day. Now you've got the short-term rental market that's getting annihilated. You have the travel industry that is getting pummeled, right? You have key markets that are going to get hit harder than most, which is going to be Las Vegas, New Orleans, Orlando, Miami, New York, Phoenix. I mean, these markets are big tourist draw markets, and that tourism, for all intents and purposes, is just getting crushed in those markets, right? So all those service industry jobs or travel-related jobs are all getting wiped out in real time, and they're not all going to come back. They're not going to flip a switch and bring back. So there's a lot going on here that's got to play out. And so from the housing market standpoint, I think that we are in for a little bit of a bumpy road for certainly the next 6 months, but in all likelihood, the next 12 to 18 months. Now, that's, to me, it's really kind of irrelevant, right? Because it's not what you and I do. Let's just think about it. That just tells us that the market, the prices are going to change is what's going to happen, right? For you and I, they're going to go. There's going to be a lot more inventory that hits the market, but we have been, statistically speaking, we have been in an inventory shortage for years. The last 7 years, we have been 1 million housing units short in new builds every year of what the market actually needs in order to take care of everybody that wants to buy. So it's not, not to get off point, but the point of it is that all of this stuff, they just kind of, all that does is just kind of moves the box for us.
Yeah.
For us, what is most important is this will be the opportunity of a lifetime. Is this will be, and that'll happen in two ways. One, if you are a wholesaler in your own market, or even focusing on virtual wholesaling, which has never been easier to do than now, this will be your gold rush for sure. And what I mean by that is that statistically, most markets, 30 to 40% of transactions are always done with cash. Well, now you're going to have this wave of cash come in because for the last 5 years, most or a lot of buyers feel like they've been locked out. They couldn't get in and take advantage of it, right? And so if you think about it, if you think cash buyers kind of like in a pyramid, at the very top, you have the institutional buyers, Invitation Homes, Blackstone, hedge funds, all the iBuyers. They kind of sit up here at the top. That did not even exist in 2008, right? That entire industry did not exist 12 years ago. And so now we have this new dynamic. You have hundreds of billions sitting up here ready to get.
Most of them are out right now, from my understanding.
Right. They're sitting on the sidelines, but they're sitting on the sidelines and by the way, they're not sitting there because they don't have money or they don't have desire. They're sitting there because what happens after they buy a house, all the services, all that stuff that can't really be put into place. So if they buy a house, they have to put They then have to put in contractors and people have to show the house and they have to write. And all of that can't happen right now under the current circumstances. So it's not that they don't have money and desire or they won't be back. It's that they need to understand from a state and federal perspective what people are allowed to do, and how that impacts their business. So anyway, that's tier one. Tier two are guys like me in our company, right? We buy 1,000 houses a year and there's a lot of guys like us. That's that tier two cash buyer. We still have a voracious appetite. It's our core business. We're going to keep buying. Our buy box is going to move. But if you worked with companies like us, we are a great buyer. We'll sit there and buy all day long. Tier three is where it gets interesting and where the most people are, because these are the people that have been locked out. Doctors, lawyers, executives, high net worth individuals, all of these people that are CEOs that haven't been able to buy in the last 4 or 5 years because the market's been so white hot, they are already flooding into the market, right? Bringing millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. If you watch my interview with Ed Milet, he point blank sat there and told me, he's like, dude, I'm worth $400 million. I have a lot of money. And I know people with a lot of money, but we are CEOs and we have to run our businesses right now, period. Because that's what the climate, but it doesn't mean I don't want a deal. Bring me a deal. If you got a real estate deal for me, bring it to me. I'd love to, but I don't have time to go looking. Just bring it to me. And so you have those types of people in all shapes and sizes that are now anxiously trying to get in the market, which represents a massive, massive opportunity if you're a wholesaler. If you are just marketing to cash buyers right now, spending 80% of your time just building and nurturing all those relationships and getting that all together, basically really working hard and getting out into that, there's no doubt, because when you think about what's coming on the other side, what I just talked about, all the distress that's coming, man, marrying those two together, that is going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, and this is exactly what happened in 2008, 2009. This is the reason why, if you kind of cut through all the noise, that's the reason why we're talking, is because I did not, Kent Clothier, the public persona, didn't even exist prior to the last recession. The last recession is what made me kind of infamous, if you will, or kind of famous in this industry, is because our business grew so much because of this kind of climate. And that's what's getting ready to happen for a lot of people.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful, because it's like you said, it's just seeing what's happening. And I love that you put it in so many stats. If you're listening to this, definitely rewind. Maybe I think it was like the last 5 to 7 minutes. And he talked about statistics and housing market percentages going down, going up, et cetera. And that's powerful, because just like how a business owner should make decisions on P&Ls, I think you should make pretty big personal decisions on the stats, especially if you're in the housing market, relative to what Kent's talking about. But I think that's a beautiful thing. And what Ken teaches is reverse wholesaling. And if you missed it, what reverse wholesaling is basically you find the cash buyers, you find out what they want exactly. I want this area, this price, this type of home, et cetera, et cetera. And then you just go find it for them, whether it's direct mail, cold calling, texting, MLS, whatever it is, you literally just go find it for them. And, one of the key points I got from there is nurture the relationship you've had, or find these relationships and nurture them right now, because there's probably more money coming in than ever in the next, what do you think, 6 to 12 months as far as the...
Yeah. And let me say 2 things on that for you, brother, just because I want to make sure that you're going to have a lot of people that listen to this, and I want to make sure they hear the right things here. So two things that echoing what you just said. What's different about reverse wholesaling, because if people hear what you just said, they may go, well, how's that different from a realtor? Don't realtors go find properties for buyers? And the reality is yes, that's what a realtor does. Here's where investors and wholesalers are different. It's a very powerful word. That language is everything. Investors go and create the opportunity. We don't find shit. Right? I mean, you talked about it. Hey, I go make cold calls. I do the marketing. You are creating. You're not finding anything. You're creating it. And that is really important, which leads me to my next point, is that this service, this industry is extremely valuable. This is something that, high net worth individuals, they love the opportunity for somebody to basically be their concierge, right? Their deal concierge. Bring me deals, right? I just want to write checks, man. Give me the baby, don't give me the labor. Like, just make it so easy for me to say yes to deals. That's the key, right? And so when you're talking to cash buyers, the easiest way to screw this up, which is my second point, is the moment you go, and I hope everybody really listens to what I'm saying, the moment you commoditize what you do, and basically try to extract value out of a cash buyer by not doing very much for them, you screwed the whole thing up. And here's how you do that. If I have, Raul, I know you've stayed at some really nice places. I've been very fortunate in my life. I know what it means to travel well, right? And I know the difference between staying at a Ritz-Carlton or a really nice resort in the Dominican or whatever. I know the difference between staying at that place and staying at, the shithole down the street, right? And we both know that very well.
Yep.
And probably one of the single biggest differences, if you and I are really honest with each other about it, is the way they treat you, right? The way they take care of you, the experience that they create for you. I mean, a hotel room is a hotel room, if we just get right down to it. But what makes me want to stay here versus there is everything else, right? You're making me feel good about this experience. Like, I'm willing to overpay because you're making me feel, and by the way, that is called intrinsic value. So the moment that you go off and get cash buyers, you're like, hey, I got another one. I just added them to my list. I put an email in there. I put a phone number in there. Every time I get something, I just fax it, or I just text it out, or I send an email, and I'm out. The moment you do that, you have literally commoditized your business. You are just like every other hotel room on the block. If you want to actually play this game well, then you have to focus on intrinsic value, meaning you will never see us not fax, I said it twice here, email or text a property to anybody. Every one of our cash buyers, we pick up the phone. Hey, Raul, we talked last week. You were looking for a 3.2, 1,500 square foot that you could pay $210,000 for, that you could rent for $2,500 a month. I went out, I created it. I got this especially for you. I'm sending over the contract. I expect you to sign. You got 14 days to check it out. It is a conversation. I am bringing value, and I am making it easy for you to say yes. If I play down to my competition and try to do as little as possible, then just get out of the game, because
Powerful.
Guys like us are going to whip your ass all day long, because we will own the relationship, where you're too busy just trying to kind of play. And so that's the key to reverse wholesaling that makes it work, is that relationship. When I say nurture, that's what I mean by that comment.
That's powerful. That's powerful, man. Definitely check that out, guys. Reverse wholesaling. It's a beast of a thing. And I think on Smart, right, you guys have the courses on there. Like, if somebody wanted to learn more, the step-by-step process of how you do it, where can people?
Yeah. I mean, look, if you go look up reverse wholesaling, you'll find me. You can get my book, or you can come in. You can just sign up for Smart, and inside of there, the courses are on there. How to find the buyers, how to work with the sellers. You can go through my certification process. Just buy our reverse wholesaling course.
Yep.
But we talk about this, whether it's in the private Facebook group, YouTube channel, whatever. I mean, this is something I'm extremely passionate about, and you can learn a lot by just getting in the game, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, and aligning yourself with the right people.
Yeah. So we'll kind of like wrap it up here, kind of like a last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Kent, what is kind of like you don't have to share any secrets or anything, but what is kind of like the next big thing that you're excited for Kent? Like, what, you got any projects or something in the back burner that maybe this?
I can tell you that I took a big gamble with Cribs, and by the way, I was right. I knew and felt really strongly, and worked on it for 2 years, very passionately, about automating the process of buying and selling houses where it could all be done, virtually. I knew that was the thing, and I still believe that's the idea. We ran into some complications and ended up having to shut it down. But, we were just able to last another 6 months. I mean, if you look at the way the world is today, it would have been perfect, right? Because people are being forced to do deals that way. We were a little ahead of our time, which is okay. If I can get that idea conceptually back off the ground and going, I still believe it's the wave of the future. If you can sit there and buy and sell a house, which you and I both know is possible, but the average consumer doesn't know. Buying and selling properties without ever stepping foot in a property, doing it all virtually, negotiating with sellers, negotiating with buyers across a platform. That's where my attention is starting to go to, because I just believe it is where the world's going to.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything that people could like kind of see a little bit about that, but Cribs, KRIBBZ, is something that Kent started, kind of put it on pause for now, but it's a way to buy and sell properties online. I think investment properties and retail properties, right?
Yep. It's not up right now. We ran into some complications with our money partners, and so we had to pull it back. But like I said, if I can get it, whether it comes in the form, which back up. Let's go back to what we just said. I know we got to wrap it up, but even if I'm playing at my level, think about it, right? That's a hit. I mean, I spent 2 years on that thing, and it ended up falling down. Everybody still suffers. Everybody takes their hits. Everybody gets kicked in the face. You are not perfect in any way, shape, or form. And so the mistakes just get bigger, and the checks get bigger. That's all that happens, right?
Love it.
So, but yeah, we took a hit there, and it was a learning lesson. But we will figure out how to get that idea back off the ground here. But I still believe it's the wave of the future. I
love it. And Kent, so how can people follow you like on social and stuff? What are some of your handles? I'll put them on the show notes anyways. But
yeah, I'm easy, man. It's on Instagram, it's Kent Clothier, and on Facebook, it's Kent Clothier. Make sure you look for the blue check marks. I mean, there are some knockoff accounts out there that we try to get taken.
Yeah.
So check that out, and definitely come and join me inside of that Facebook group or on YouTube, whatever. Right? I mean, we're around. I'm not hard to find.
Yeah, love it. I appreciate you, Kent. Thank you guys for listening. If you're listening to this on iTunes, check us out on YouTube on Raul Balufa or raulbalufa.com. Appreciate you, brother.
See you, man. Take care, man.
Peace.